Springtime. It's my favorite time of year. I love to sit out here on the back porch, listening to the birds sing, looking at the beautiful flowers, the smells of spring. It's really great. There's only one problem. The sun is to the west, and as I sit out here, the glaring sun makes it really uncomfortable. If only there was a way I could flick a remote and fix that problem. That's better. Today, in this episode, I'm going to talk about SmartWings shades. SmartWings was good enough to send me these shades. They did agree not to have any influence on my opinions, but I got to tell you, I really love these shades. They do a wonderful job. They're easy to install. I'm going to show you how to get them installed, and I'll also show you how to get them set up in SmartThings. Let's get started. So here's a look at everything I got in the package. I've got 2 blinds. So let's take a closer look. You'll see the blind there, which is extremely well built. And let's take a closer look at some of the materials that were supplied. So going from left to right, we have a product manual and installation guide. Next to that is a remote. Then there is a charging cable. Then there are some mounting hardware. Next to the mounting hardware is the anchor cables. Next to the anchor cables is a couple of brackets, and then we have the solar panel as well as a power supply. So the long piece of white cardboard laying here behind the blind is actually a template that you can use to lay up and determine where you're going to drill holes for the mounting of the blind. It happens to match the exact length of the blind, so that's pretty handy. Okay, I mentioned there were 2 hardware packs. They look identical. One hardware pack contains the hardware needed to secure the blind. I'm going to be doing a wall surface mounting, not a ceiling surface mounting. The second hardware package contains the hardware needed to mount the cabling anchor system. Starting with the first set of screws, they are being used to mount these clips to secure the blind to the wall. The manual recommends that you use at least 2 clips. They provide 3. I intend to use all 3 clips. The second package contains these items, again, which is the cable anchoring system. They provide anchor screws, and the intent, according to the manual, is that you mount this on a vertical surface. I do not have that. I have a cement slab. So what I did is I purchased metal L brackets. I am going to secure those brackets with these Tapcon screws, and I'm going to use a 5/32 drill bit to be able to pre-drill those holes that I need to mount these L brackets into the cement slab. The product, when assembled, will look like this. So it should make for a very secure system. I will wait until I have my blinds mounted so that I can see where my cables are going to drop, and I'll make sure those cables are plumb before I determine where to mount the L brackets in the masonry slab. I previously mentioned that there were 3 of these clips supplied with each blind. There's actually 4 of them, so you would use all 8 screws if you used all 4 clips. And as described previously, this is how they're released. The teeth go into the top of the track, and then this would snap in to the bottom of the track, and it's secure now. So this would be the wall mounting side. So I showed you this template before that is used to pre-position the mounting location for your blind. It has this center line where you can use to align your clip. You can mark your holes and then pre-drill them. What I didn't show you previously was that on the back of this template they have adhesive. There's a strip on both ends, and there's also an adhesive strip here in the middle, so you can kind of secure this template in place and make sure it's completely level prior to drilling your holes for the mounting of your blind. So I have one template secured in place. As you can see, it perfectly fits in 1/2 of the length of the front of the porch, which I'm going to put the second template up so I have both in place, and I'll be ready to drill my pilot holes. The template is perfectly level. I'm using the trim line on the porch itself, and so we should be in good shape for the mounting of the blinds. In the manual, it shows the valance brackets with the mounting holes horizontal, and when mounting on the template, it shows that those 2 horizontal mounting holes should be in the center of the template line. However, the brackets that I received have staggered holes, so I chose to mount them as you see here, so I'm making mark on each one of those points. And the way it comes out, I go in 4 inches from the end, and then 34 to the next line, 34 again, that would be the 3rd clip, and then the last 4th clip would be 4 inches from the other end, so they're evenly spaced. So with those transferred marks onto the template, I can go ahead and drill the holes. Now, the manual doesn't appear to specify the size of these mounting screws, so I elected to use a 7/64 drill bit. That may be a little bit undersized for the screw, but I'd rather have it smaller than larger. So it appears I'm tapping good solid wood for these holes, which is very good. So I now have all of my pilot holes drilled. So it's just a matter of removing that template and then putting each of the brackets in place. Okay, and then with the templates removed, you can see, I think, all of my pilot holes. So they're ready to receive the brackets. Okay, got all of the clips in place. And so we can now mount the blind, but before we do that, we have to make sure that each blind is fully charged. So to charge the blinds, you simply plug them in. When you plug them in, you'll see the red light indicating that they're charging. So let me go ahead and plug the second blind in here. So that indicates that it is charging now. When those lights turn green, then that's your indication that the blind is fully charged. So last evening I hooked these blinds up to the chargers, and as you can see by the green lights, they're charged and ready to go. So today's plan is to go ahead and get these mounted, and I also need to work on the brackets, the L brackets. I needed to drill out a second hole so that I can mount the anchoring brackets with 2 bolts. So we'll do that, we'll get these mounted, and then we'll work on getting the anchor cables in place. Fun fact before we get started with that, I was contacted originally by SmartWings way back in March, and they said the weather's getting warmer, it's time to start the blind video. In the northern states, it doesn't get very warm until May or June, so I kind of put that project off. Yesterday when I was working on this video, it was cold, it was raining, and it was only a high of about 39 degrees. Today's not much better, that's why I'm wearing this jacket. It's supposed to only get up to about 40, 45, but we're gonna go ahead and persevere and get this video done. So let's get started. Okay, as I mentioned, I believe earlier, when I attached this L bracket, the holes did not perfectly align. So I need to drill out that portion of the L bracket. The best way I found to do that, through a little trial and error, is to secure the bracket here in a vise, and the L bracket wants to drift. Actually, I need to turn this the other way. So the problem I have is that the L bracket tends to drift side to side, and you want it to stay perfectly in that place. So I have a couple of these old flat nails that are sort of tapered, and they work nicely to kind of tap down in on either side of that bracket to kind of hold it in the middle, so that when I drill, it'll reduce the amount of drift. So I got those in place, pretty well centered. Let's go ahead and drill this out carefully. All right, so with that hole drilled, looks like it came out pretty well. So let's go ahead and insert the bolt. And of course, I will need to go ahead and remove the L brackets before I attempt to mount them into the cement slab. So as you can see, that's aligned pretty well center. This will go in here like so, and I'll just be able to slip the cable through and tighten it down with that set screw. All right, let's go ahead and mount that first blind. All right, let's rest it on the top of the clips here, and we just snap it into place. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that is securely in place. This can slide back and forth to adjust it. I want to leave about a 1/2 inch on this side, and that should make enough room for the other one to fit comfortably. So there you have one installed. All right, let's try mount blind number 2. Rest it on the top clips here. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So here are my mounted blinds. Blind 1 and blind 2. I had a span of 220 inches. I ordered 2 blinds at 110 inches each, and if I butt them up in the middle, I calculated that I would have a 1/2 inch on either side, just enough clearance for the shade to come down, and they've come out perfectly. So good job, SmartWings. Okay, so I started to affix one of the cables to the bottom of the line. These just screw in to the bottom, so there's 4 of these cables, 2 on each blind, and then the wires fed down through this rod, and that's what holds the blind in place in windy situations. Because of the wind, I elected to hold off on this part of the installation until I get a day where it's a lot calmer. I think the best way to secure the L brackets on the bottom is to extend these blinds down so that I know exactly where I need to affix the L brackets onto the cement slab. So this part of the installation to be continued. One of the things I did not mention was that when these blinds are shipped, they're shipped with a protective film on this painted surface. So once you get your blinds fully installed, you should go ahead and remove that film. So today we're going to focus on making sure that we get the blinds properly anchored. To do that, I need to lower the blinds, and to lower the blinds, I need to wake them. So they're shipped in a sleep mode. To wake them, you use this programming button. So you simply press and hold this button until the motor jogs. Now this would be for this particular blind here. So let's go ahead and do that. Wake the motor. There you see the blind did jog, so this one is awake, and I'll just repeat that on the second blind. Once I wake the second blind, then we can lower the blind using the remote. However, I should note that these are shipped pre-programmed with upper and lower limits. The upper limit is programmed to be within 4 inches from the roller, and the lower limit is pre-programmed at 96 inches. Now, if you want to reprogram either one of those, there are instructions in the book for changing the upper and lower limits, so I'll let you refer to the manual. So this is the remote that is equipped with the SmartWings blind, and it comes with a nice little wall mount bracket and screws. It also is supplied with batteries. This has several channels, as you can see, a total of 5. So this single remote could be used to control up to 5 different blinds. It just so happens that the blind that I mounted on the left here, this is programmed on channel 1. The blind on the right is programmed on channel 2. So if I put it on channel 1 and then push the down button, you can see that that blind goes down. And if I put it on channel 2 and down button, you can see that blind goes down, stop and up. The other nice thing is that I lowered these down in testing and found that it is at the right height for the anchoring system. So I'm going to go ahead and install cables, and then I'll lower the blinds, and then we can get to installing those anchors. Okay, when attaching the cables to the bottom of your blind, you can use a 12mm wrench. You'll need a wrench because they turn very hard. So I would highly recommend that you lubricate them with some 3-in-1 oil when you start them in, and then after you work them to a certain point, you will be able to use this to hand tighten them because there's an excessive amount of threads, in my opinion, on this. My recommendation to SmartWings would be to shorten the bolt. As you can see on this side, it extends quite a way up there. You could probably use half of those threads and it'd be fine to secure this to the blind. Once you get it snug close to the top, then you'll need your wrench to finish because it gets kind of difficult to turn, and then you can just snug it up to the blind. It doesn't have to be excessively tight, but just snug it up like so, and you're good to go. With the anchoring cables attached to the shades, I'm going to go ahead and use my remote to lower the blinds, first selecting the channel 1, which would be the left blind, and then channel 2, which is the right blind. So there's the channel 1, channel 2, and you see both blinds moving into position. So with those blinds in the lower position, I'll be able to line up where the cable should be mounted on the cement, mark those out, and drill those holes so that I can mount each of those brackets to the masonry surface. So I got my brackets aligned, and how I did that was that I put the anchor in place, made sure the cable was tight and that it was perfectly aligned with the rod, and then I marked, as you can see here, with a marker and traced around with a pencil to ensure that I had the location identified properly so that I could drill and then mount the L brackets. So at this point I'll remove these L brackets and drill my holes, and then we'll fasten the L bracket to the cement, and then I can reattach the SmartWings anchor. So I have the shade anchors and cables in place, nice and tight, and they're doing a good job of keeping the shades in place even though we do have some wind here. So SmartWings also sent me a couple of solar panels, so I'm going to show you how to get those hooked up next. Okay, so this is the charging cable that comes out of the bottom of the shade, and I had SmartWings send me a 6-foot extension wire that will attach to the solar panel, and so that just plugs into here. This is a water resistant plug, You just put this sleeve over top, and then the other end would go into the solar panel, and likewise that would plug in, and then you would just tighten this on. This is the solar panel. It has adhesive backing. It also has holes to receive screws if you prefer to mount it that way. Pairing with the SmartThings app is very simple. You just hold this programming button for 6 seconds until the motor enters into pairing mode, and then add it to SmartThings. Let's give it a try. All right, so it jogged twice. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a red light here indicating that it's in pairing mode. We'll hit Add Device, and then we'll hit Scan Nearby Devices. Red light is still on. Now it may time out. When I did the other blind, it timed out, so I just went ahead and put it in pairing mode a second time. There, it found it. SmartWings window treatment. I'm going to call this Outdoor Shade 1. And we'll save that. There you see Outdoor Shade 1 right there. Indicates that it's partially open. Let's open it all the way. And hopefully you can see it opening in the background. And if we hit close, it'll close. We can pause it. Showing my batteries at 48%. So quick tip, you do need an edge driver for this to work in the SmartThings app. I've provided an edge driver with instructions on my website. There's a link below this video. As I wrap up on blinds, I guess it's time to wrap up this video. So I hope you really enjoyed today's content. If you did, please consider giving it a like. No pressure though. And if you like this sort of content, be sure to subscribe, and that way you won't miss any upcoming smart home content. Hey, really appreciate you joining me today. Keep automating, and God bless. Whew, that sun is bright. Wow.
This is the future.